Welcome back to the Carnivore and Beyond podcast. So today I've got a great guest. I got Lloyd on. Now, Brett's kind of special. I've listened to a load of his stuff and his interviews, and what strikes me so much is his heart and his passion. He's got a great story, but it's just the way he expresses it. So I had to get him on. He's a carnivore. He's fixed a whole load of issues. He's lost a ton of weight. His depression has cleared up, and we're going to get into that. He's a musician too, like me. He's a guitarist, and I'm looking forward to this chat. So welcome, Brett. He's a Christian. Now, on my spiritual journey, I haven't had a lot to do with this. And so apologies if I ask some really daft questions, because my expertise comes more from the sort of yogi Hindu side. But as far as I'm concerned these days, wherever anybody finds that kind of connection is cool. So let's get into it. Hello, Brett.
Hey, Phil, how you doing? It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I know we're going to have a great conversation, and I feel certain we're going to put some good out into the world to share with others. So
excellent,
my
man.
friend, let's have at it.
Excellent. Well, tell me to start with. A lot of these podcasts go really heavy on the carnivory, but let's put that aside for a moment and just, when did you start to get interested in the sort of spiritual side of things? Was it at a young age? What happened?
Well, depends on how you define spiritual. I was raised, we went to church. I was raised in a Protestant faith called the Church of Christ, sola scriptura type kind of denomination. And, I grew up believing in those things. I also kind of walked the line as I got into my teenage years and found some of the world's pleasures at my fingertips, kind of walked this 1 foot in the dark and 1 foot in the light, along that razor's edge for a while.
Didn't we all?
Then as I became a young adult, I just stepped fully into the dark and became an orthodox hedonist, basically. And I know now that was illness driven. I had no clue then. And then after, it's an interesting thing. It was me and my wife, I'm in my middle 30s. Danielle, my current and final, thank God, wife forever, were going to pick one of our kids up from school one day. And we went past, there's this new Catholic church being constructed. And I just observed that, I'd never been to a Catholic Mass before. I'd never been inside a Catholic church before. I'd always been interested just because it was there and I'd heard so much about it, but I never researched it. I was never curious enough. And my wife made the statement, well, I was baptized Catholic, something I didn't even know. We'd been married 6 or 7 years at that point. I didn't even know that about her. And she said, I'd like to go there once it's finished. And I said, well, we'll do that sometime. And I was genuinely interested, just more of a curiosity thing, because I did when I was in college. I had like 12 hours of religious studies. I mean, from a cultural, behavioral type kind of perspective is how I was looking at it through college. So I was kind of interested in it. And so weeks go by and she hems and haws. And finally I just says, let's just go. We're going to go. And I'll never forget, we go to this parish and one of our children had been having trouble with telling the truth lately. I won't identify which child that was. And the homily just happened to be online. And I thought, well, how apropos. But I remember it being just so blown away. It was the first time I'd ever walked into any church building, and I felt like I was in a reverent place. People weren't jibber-jabbering, visiting, chit-chatting in groups. Oh, no. There were people on their knees praying, and it was quiet. And the people that were moving around were going out of their way to be quiet and to be reverent. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I kind of like this. And then the Mass begins, and you see all this symbolism, all these beautiful icons, these beautiful symbols of faith and sacrifice. And it was just a beautiful thing. And I didn't understand 2/3 of what I was seeing. And I walked out of there thinking, well, that was really something. And then as the next few days went on, I was like, well, damn, I got to go back and figure out what in the world these people are talking about. I mean, I got to understand this. I mean, I grasped, triune God and concept, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I was fine with that. But Catholicism, Mass was nothing like what I was told to expect. It wasn't a show. It wasn't this up and down stuff that people make jokes about. It was this beautiful, reverent thing that I just had to learn more about. And I'm a thankful convert to the Catholic faith, and I do my best to live it through my actions and my deeds. I'm not an apologist for the Catholic faith. I'm still learning it. My understanding of it is so woefully inadequate of what I would like it to be. But I'll share this with you. I was primed. I'm loath to say this was preordained because that gets into a subject that I just am woefully inept in and not equipped to discuss. But I feel like I was literally led by the nose to this, and I'll explain why. I was in a working band then, and you're gigging 2-3 hours away. You don't get home Sunday morning bright and early at 4 or 5 a.m. The notion of getting up and going anywhere at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, that's not cool. So I had to schedule when we were going to go to this first Mass around a weekend I was off. And that weekend happened to dovetail with when the movie The Passion of the Christ came out. And we wanted to go see that just because it was pissing so many people off, basically. So I'm watching that, and I'm just, oh my gosh, I'm blown away spiritually, emotionally. I got my good Christian guilt just churning away. And then I go to this first Mass. So I'm primed. I mean, I'm literally the kindling's been laid. The oil's been poured on it. Just wait for Brett to light the match. And a couple of months, we started going every Sunday, and I started doing research and things like that. And I'll share this with you. This is true. This word I'm about to say to you actually happened to me. I was a weekday afternoon, and life was going fine. And suddenly around 11 o'clock some morning, I get agitated as hell. I have to go to the parish. Now, understand this. I don't know anything about this place. We've only gone in the main church. I haven't been into any other doors or buildings. But I instinctively know there's a chapel there. I don't know where it is, but I have this, you got to go over there, and you're going to that chapel, and you're going to do it whether you want to or not. And the more I'm trying to argue, the more agitated and anxious I became. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm just going to go the hell over there. I found the chapel without any problem. There weren't any signs for it, but I parked in the right parking lot, and voila, there it was. And I walked in that place, Phil, and there's just a few chairs. There's an altar and a tabernacle with the Blessed Sacrament. And I don't even fully comprehend what any of that means at this time. I know nothing. I just knew I was in the presence of God. And I got down and cried and begged for forgiveness for all the horrible things I had done as an Orthodox hedonist and worse. And I bawled. It's a good thing I was there by myself, because the people in the white coats would have taken me away. And Phil, I'm there by myself. Something taps me on the shoulder, and I am filled with this joy of, it's going to be okay. And how do you turn your back on that kind of an experience?
Yeah.
So, then the real quest, it began in earnest, because then I had a reason. I didn't need to understand. I just had a reason. I needed to do this. So that's why and how I became a thankful Catholic convert.
Cool. So at this time the depression had already hit, right?
Oh, I am on the way down. I think I'm doing okay, but I'm not.
How did this side of it, how did discovering all this affect the depression? Did it lift it? Did it sort of take you into deeper holes? Because sometimes it can. What does it do?
It never took me into a deeper or darker place, ever. It was comforting. It was something for me to hold on to.
Yeah, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just sometimes we have to kind of hit rock bottom, don't we? And sometimes it's in that kind of discovery that we discover the rock bottom we need, and then bounce.
I wasn't at the mental illness rock bottom. I was at a spiritual. I wouldn't even say I was at a spiritual rock bottom. It was just I was confronted with the. I'm trying to think in a way to explain this that's not going to offend everybody. Because I want people to understand something. A lot of what you hear about Catholicism, it's just not true. It's a fallacy. And a lot of what you hear about Christianity in general is just not true. Now, there's been a lot of horrible things done in the name of both. But that's human failure.
Yeah.
That's human disgust. That's human error. That has nothing to do with you should love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, seriously. Yeah. Okay, I got off on a tangent. I apologize.
Any tangent you like, Brett. That's what we're here for.
But depression at that time, it was there, but I believed it was being treated. Now, my wife and I have since talked about it, and I'm able to look back. I'm not this coming Monday, this is a Saturday we're doing this. This coming Monday will make my 9th month into carnivory. And I'm still healing. And the further I get away from the day my illness, I lost all the symptoms for good, the more I learn about the past. Because while it was going on, I was unable to process any of it very well at all. I was hugely unaware of it, and that's frightening.
Oh man, I know exactly where you are. I'm 4 years in now. I still notice things that I'm healing up, and things that I look back at in the times when I was sick and before I was sick that you're still making sense of. It's a long process, Yeah,
it's definitely a long process. And so I can't tell you, I can just tell you what having the faith and developing the faith and living the faith to the best of my ability did for me in surviving depression. Because I genuinely, there are two things that kept me alive. My faith and my marriage, my wife. Those are the two things. I'm afraid that if either one of those had been missing, we're not having this conversation.
I'm in the same place. Yeah. I was starting to think about going and taking a test ride on a motorbike and just putting it into a motorway bridge, I was thinking of stuff like that. And then I was thinking, well, actually, my wrist doesn't bend enough these days to twist the throttle. And so I didn't. And, it was my missus and my daughter. and that totally different perspective that I had on the universe, that kept me detached from it and enough to look at it. I know that feeling. Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah, you just made the hair on my arm stand up, because I hadn't told anybody about some. I used to think, well, it would have to be quick. And see, I didn't want to end my life. I didn't want to do that. I mean, I had a genuine fear of the afterlife consequence. Plus, I didn't want to do that to my wife. That, to me, that's the supreme selfish act in most cases. Uh, but and then the illness, the depression, it was so insidious. Well, if you're going to do it, how would you do it? And I had a couple of scenarios. One was a big bottle of Ativan and a fifth of vodka, and go to the beach, and you'd be gone before anybody knew there was ever a problem. Or your ass notion, only I wasn't thinking about a motorcycle, even though I had one. I was thinking about running a car into one, because more force. But I didn't dare verbalize any of that crap, because I worked in the I don't want to say psychiatric field. I worked in the psychology field in the 80s. That was what I did before I became a full-time musician. And I knew if I ever verbalized any of that, then I would suddenly start losing the ability to make any decisions for myself. So I kept that under wraps. But you saying that, I hadn't remembered that for a long time.
It's funny, people just say, there's nothing worse than death, but when you're in that much pain, there was points where I couldn't even walk to the toilet. I was peeing in jars and stuff, lying on the sofa. And at that stage, you start to have those weird thoughts. But I think it was just my daughter was 2 at the time, and just looking at her, and I thought, nah, I got to find a way through this.
Well, I didn't. I, honest to goodness, believed this was it. I mean, this was how I was going to be. I mean, I'd asked doctors, I remember being 41 years old and asking my doctor. This was in South Carolina, and I said, do you see a day I don't have to take these meds anymore? And he's like, no, you're probably going to have to take them for the rest of your life. And I'll never forget, it was like a jail cell door being slammed in my head. This is the way it is, dude.
I know. The biggest thing in healing is getting people to get that kind of brainwashing out of their heads. It's actually pretty easy. It's a simple enough path. It's getting all that craziness that the docs have told you. So I remember when I was given some of the arthritis meds, and I only took them for about a month, but I mean, it sent me into a state of proper schizophrenia on top of all that pain. And it was like, no, come on, this is not the path. So what did you notice with the meds? I've never taken any kind of psych meds or anything. What was that doing to you, and what was that doing to your sort of perception of your faith, if you like, as well?
Well, to explain that, I have to explain what depression was like first.
Exactly. I was going to ask you. Yeah, I was going to ask you that too, because a lot of people think it's just feeling a bit down, and it's really not. So yeah, good point.
Okay. Just remind me to get to the meds thing. For me, depression was an extreme dissatisfaction with everything. Nothing was quite good enough. Nothing I did was quite good enough. I wasn't good enough. And then underneath that, and then that would generate this rage and frustration that just was constantly brewing at all times. And then underneath that was this sadness that I couldn't get past whatever it was that was holding me back. And that would usually be manifested in, it was a lack of effort. It was, you're lazy. It was all these things it really wasn't. So, and then I've come to understand depression and mental illness in general alters, I believe, everything we see. All of our input is altered in some fashion. Could be in a minute way. It could be in a major way. It could be something as simple as my wife saying on this beautiful Sunday morning, "Oh man, it's a beautiful day." And my illness would hear that and twist and transpose it into something completely different. Was, Yeah, it's a beautiful day. Yeah, sure. That's what I would hear. And then because I love my wife, I don't understand what's wrong. And she would look at me with her eyes, huh? What's wrong? I said, it's just a beautiful day. And the illness would twist it again. And then there would be this frustration exchange. This woman I knew that adored me couldn't understand what I was saying to her. And I couldn't understand what she was saying. I couldn't make her understand anything at times. And that just grinds and grinds at you. I described depression for me when I was sick as the best I could come up with was it was like walking around with a 50-pound anvil on your head 24/7. It's there when you woke up. You carried it around with you. It didn't matter. You could be the strongest son of a bitch on the planet. And you're going to get wore down. I mean, you're going to get grinded down. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I had a lot of that after an enormous mushroom, psilocybin mushroom binge over one autumn in like 1979, and really catapulted into a kind of schizophrenia for a couple of years, and then a little bit for like another 30 probably. But it was weird. You'd wake up in the morning and think, hey, I'm okay, and then like 2 seconds later you go, no, I'm not, and this weirdness would come in. And I think it was also around the time that I hit the sort of vegetarian idea. And I think this compounded it because I was getting digestive issues and some joint issues as well, the sort of thing that I'd never known before. It was probably about 1980 when this hit, and I was 18 years old. And I think obviously we know now that depression has a huge connection with the gut. But around that time as well, in this time that you're talking about, were you you were pretty overweight, weren't you? I was, but later on, in a couple of decades after. But when did that hit, and what were you eating? It was a sad diet, but what was kind of going on? Did you have any other symptoms and stuff like that going alongside the depression?
Well, at no time did we make any connection between diet and any of this.
No, neither did I. No.
No doctor mentioned it. No psychiatrist. Nobody. I'm trying to think what order to answer what you asked that I can answer it intelligently. Basically, I was eating. I was a meat and potatoes kind of person. I ate a lot of bread. I was not into vegetables. I liked fruit. I loved grapes. I loved apples. I loved bananas. But what I really loved was coconut cake and coconut cream pie and ice cream. And weight-wise, my weight was pretty good. I weighed around 220 when I met Danielle, my wife. And then after we got married, I put on 15 pounds, and my doctor said, don't sweat that. Every guy, when they first get married at any age, that always happens. Okay. So I just went about my merry way. But then as I'm getting sicker and the doc starts adding meds. I mean, 2006 to 2008, or 2007 to 2008, I had your old-fashioned mental breakdown. A familial event occurred that I won't go into, and Brett didn't sleep for 2 months, more than an hour or two a night. And as you well know, you don't sleep, bad things happen. You start hearing kids in the yard when there's nobody home but you. That was a good one. They put me on Remeron to get me to sleep, and I slept for about 3 weeks. Now, Remeron is notorious for putting the weight on you, and I probably gained 10 pounds in that 3 weeks. But after 3 weeks, I went back to not sleeping more than an hour or two a night for another 6 to 8 weeks. I don't remember exactly how long it was. And I fell deep in the darkness then. Things got really scary and ugly. And Doc put me on trazodone, and that finally put me to sleep. and I was on trazodone for 8.5 years. I also, during this same stretch of time, got put on Ativan because my anxiety was off the charts, just completely out of control. And so that's what it took to stop the free fall. And I gained a lot of weight. Oh my gosh, I gained a lot of weight. You know, trazodone's notorious as the notorious weight gainers. As Ativan, all benzodiazepines will put weight on you if you're not careful. And, you know, not know. And the sicker I got, the only time I felt really good after a certain point when it was a sugar high, you know, dopamine sugar high. And, you know, my wife would buy Danielle would buy these triple layered, huge coconut cakes, and I could go through them in 2 or 3 days by myself. Easy, and not feel guilty.
I've been there. The tub and a half of Haagen-Dazs after an enormous amount of pizza and pasta and whatever. Late at night, you know, it's no wonder things blew up.
and so at the end of 2008, and I was on a lot of other meds. I mean, through that year and a half, it was Symbiax. That was the med that made me sleep. I sleep 10, 12 hours at night, and then I'd have 1 or 2 2-hour naps through the day. And I was a lump. I couldn't do much of anything, and I gained tons of weight then. But at the end of that 2008, I felt like, or 2009, yeah, into 2008, right. I felt like I'd come to terms with the familial stuff that had occurred. And so I took away, I got myself down to just the Prozac, Ativan, and trazodone. And I started feeling better. Now, this is where it gets, irony doesn't even begin to cover it. I've gained so much weight, I don't remember numbers. I just know I was like wearing, my waist was like at 38 inches now. And I'm like, I don't like this look at all. And my wife said, well, I've heard about this Atkins diet. Why don't you look into that? And so I read up on it. I'm like, well, geez, this is easy. I don't have to starve myself. I can do this. So I started the Atkins diet. And I wasn't into measuring. I just eliminated potatoes, and I eliminated potato chips and the cakes and the pies. And I lost weight. But I also started feeling better. I started feeling a lot better. But at no time did we put the two together. I went to my 30-year high school reunion. You could see the pictures on my Facebook page. My affect is great. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm probably about 230 again there. And I'm 6 foot. Well, then I was 6'2". I've shrunk a little since then. Thank you, aging. And I mean, I'm having a great time. And life is pretty good. I know I'm still not well. I'm dependent on the meds. I'm not happy about that. But I'm functioning at a high. I'm writing songs again because during that year I was sick. The guitar was, it sat there with a towel over it. And I was literally terrified of it because I picked that up, then the emotions came on. And I couldn't handle any of that, period. But after I got better and, started getting all excited with our high school reunion, a guy that I used to admire as I was 13 years old, and this kid was writing songs at the same age of 13. Songs I thought were cool and deep. Who knows what they really were? They were probably kind of silly. But, I mean, he was kind of like the first guy. I was like, I could learn to do that. I should learn how to do that. Anyway, he heard some of the music I had recorded before my breakdown, and he's like, well, what are you doing now? And I said, well, I'm just trying to get better. And he said, no, what are you doing with your music? I said, I'm not doing anything. He said, you get your damn guitar and you play it. You just do it. All right. Man, the floodgates opened, and song after song poured out of me like a waterfall for years. Being depressed, The only thing being depressed did was it made the music darker and darker and darker, but it did not help. That's one thing I wanted. Being depressed did not make me more creative. Take that idea and put it in the compost pile where it belongs. Depression doesn't make you better at anything except misery. Period. Anyway, so I mean, that 2009 to July of 2010, I'm thriving again at a higher level. But in May, June of 2010, I started eating a lot more crap again because it tasted good and I wanted some. And I'm thinking, well, I gained weight back. I'll just go back on Atkins. Easy. On a Sunday evening in July 2010, I'm at Mass on my knees. It's right before consecration in Mass. And I get this red alert all throughout my being. This insane notion, if you don't get the hell out of here, son, something really bad is about to happen. And you don't want to be here when it happens. And I mean, it was instant fright, flight kind of thing. And I literally ran out of that church. I rode a motorcycle there that day. I zip home on the bike. And 15 minutes after I leave, I'm curled up on my couch crying like a baby. And I don't know why. I don't have a clue. And this is where the spiral just, it was like diving into an abyss. Depression came back worse than ever before. They upped the diagnosis to major depression with psychotic features. And then they put me on more meds. And then I went doctor hunting because I was like, this just isn't working. I'll try this doctor. And then the same thing would happen. They put me on new meds. I'd get a little bit better for a while. And then I'd fall back in the ditch. Full moon would come along. I just turned into this raging idiot for no reason. Or I would just be so anxious and afraid that I would spend half the day curled up holding a pillow, wondering if I was going to live to see the sunset. There were a lot of days like that. And then my wife, her job got transferred here to North Florida. So I had to move and go doctor hunting in an area where I knew absolutely nothing and nobody. And the first couple I found were not very kind to me at all. Matter of fact, one of them is the only time I didn't know this was possible. A doctor fired me. The woman she wanted to find out if my thyroid was the problem, but she didn't give me a thyroid test. No, she gave me thyroid medicine.
You're joking.
And no instructions. No instructions.
What?
I took that first dose of thyroid. I don't even remember what it was. I thought the top of my head was going to blow up. I wrote her an email asking her, what in the hell are you doing to me? She fired me. She sent me a note. You're no longer my patient. Da, 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 da. I'm like, well, thank you for small favors. But I found a nurse practitioner who cared. And she worked really hard with me for a couple of years. She put me on Seroquel. And for a time, I actually thought Seroquel might be the answer. Because I did get a little bit better, and I was able to write almost a whole album on it. And still to this day, some of those performances on those albums is the best I'll ever do. It definitely has the best recorded guitar solo I'll ever make in my life. Song called Gotta Keep Running. Anyway, but I wasn't right at all. I still was sick, and I knew I was sick. And this time we're kind of like, every time I would get a little bit better, I would be less better than I was before the time before. Every downfall was just deeper and deeper and deeper, and the climb back up was fewer and fewer rungs. Fast forward to 2015, I weighed 289 pounds. My doctor, the last psychiatrist I will ever have in my life, decided it would be wise to take me off Prozac cold turkey to have me take another medicine. Now, there is nothing I can find anywhere in any literature that says that's ever a good idea. But because I still bought into, he's a doctor, okay, this seems really stupid, but I'll do it because he's the doctor. And I had the worst. It was so, imagine if you can, taking a warm washcloth, Phil, and rubbing it directly onto your brain matter. I had that for months going on in my head. Then the brain zaps, the flashes of light, and my mood is just getting worse. I'm thinking more about suicide than I ever wanted. That I'm really getting scared, and I really don't think at that point I'm going to live out the year. This is January. Enter a friend. This lady, her name's Kimmy Wade. She's the lead singer for my Dark Hearts Blues project. And God bless this woman. I found her and I put out a Craigslist ad because through all this, I'm still trying to do music. I'm still writing. I'm trying to, I've got this bunch of bluesy material. I know I don't sing blues worth a nickel at all, so I got to find somebody to sing it. And I find this lady through Craigslist. She sends me this video. She's real nonchalant. You would love the hell out of Kimmy. And she's like, I sing a little. Listen to this video, and if you like it, give me a call. Well, the band she was with was terrible, but 5 seconds into it, I'm like, this woman, I wish I'd have been working with her for all my life. She's got a natural wailing, bluesy growl that will just rip your guts to shreds. It's amazing. And yes, please work with me. Please work with me. So she's watching a lot of this as it's going on. She's coming one day a week. I'm able to somehow convey to her, and I'm able to communicate fairly well musically up to a point. And we work well together. But she's watching all this. And in January 2015, she finally just says, have you ever thought about medical cannabis? And I was like, huh? And she said, why don't you look into that? I think it might help you. And because musicians, it's around. But I had a bad experience with it when I was young. And beer was legal. So I just never fooled with it. At rehearsal, breaks during gigs, after the gig, I'm passing left, passing right. I don't want any part of it. It just wasn't my thing. So I did some research, and there was some anecdotal evidence that people were doing better on it. But I'm like, yeah. I show my wife, and she's like, well, what do we have to lose at this point? I mean, what else? My psychiatrist was recommending I either seriously consider electroshock therapy or a long-term hospitalization. And I didn't have the health insurance for a long-term hospitalization or the electroshock because that's insanely expensive. But I have seen patients after electroshock, and I knew I didn't want any part of that on any level. But that's how bad things were. So my wife and I are like, well, what do we have to lose? We'll try the cannabis. So we secure 4 grams of flour, which is my tiny amount of cannabis. And she made this little batch of canna butter, and she made these oatmeal raisin cookies. And I joke because they definitely weren't 0-carb cookies, but they were probably keto because there was no sugar in them. And they were the size of a quarter. I was so scared of this stuff, Phil. I broke that first cookie in half when I ate it. In 10 minutes after I ate that damn cookie, it was like 1,000 suns lifted off my body. And I didn't feel like crap anymore. I wasn't high. I wasn't intoxicated. I just didn't feel bad for the first time in years. It was wonderful. And then about 30 minutes later, the high kicked in. And I was like, I wasn't angry. I wasn't irritated. All my symptoms kind of just melted away. Who the hell knew that was even possible? And so, I mean, I'm like, well, this is wild. Who knew this could happen? And so every day that became part of the deal. I had to have half a cookie. And, as time went along, tolerance kicked in, and I have a little more than a cookie now, but I still use cannabis every day, and I'll get to why I still use it today. But back to then, about 10 days into that, Phil, excuse me, I got to get a tissue here. You made me cry, Phil. Darn, dude. What's wrong with you damn drummers?
That's what I like about you, man. You're all heart.
Then, like 10 days into this, and my wife, God bless her heart, if there's a woman who's earned her place in heaven, it's my wife, Danielle, because mental illness affects everybody. She suffered right along with me because she couldn't talk to me. She was as upset with what she was seeing. She wanted to help me. Everything she tried was failing. It was horrible for her. And then, she would get so frustrated. I told her once, I thought she had said something really rude to me. And I said, you need to go to confession. She said, what am I going to tell him? My husband has mental illness? That's what she had to endure. So she's not sure what to think in the first 10 days because she's saying things to me and I could see her like kind of coiling back because she didn't know what to expect because I was unpredictable. You never knew what I was going to think or say. And so she's weird now going, you're different. 10 days into it, Phil, I'm tying my shoes and I realize my belly's in the way. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then my heart starts racing. I kind of get a little cold sweat going. I get a little anxiety attack. And I'm like, my God, I'm enormous. I actually could see myself accurately for the first time in God knows when. I looked in the mirror. I'm like, this is unacceptable. There was no, what am I going to do? It was okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then I told Danielle immediately, I'm back on Atkins as of now. And later that day, I got the dog and we took a walk. And I lived low carb as I understood it to the best of my ability. And over the next 3.5 years, I walked off 94 pounds.
Cool.
I got better. I was still heavily dependent on the cannabis. As I learned when I had to go out of town to a state where it wasn't legal. Where I live, I'm a legal patient here in the state of Florida. It's legal medically. But I had to go out of state where it wasn't available, and I was able to do the visit and do what needed to be done because it was only like 3 or 4 days, but it took me like 6 weeks to recover from that, to get my behavior and my mood and everything back to where symptoms were being dealt with appropriately. I didn't like that at all. Plus, cannabis, even legal, is expensive. It's not cheap. And it's a pain in the neck to get. So it was still better than being actively insane. So life was improving. Now, fast forward to about April 2018. This same Kimmy Wade messages me one day and says, oh my God, you got to watch every video by this guy named Dr. Jordan Peterson. You're going to love him. And she was right. I don't need to talk about what he does and everything. I believe him to be a man of incredible integrity. And, I went through the whole thing. When you first learn about Jordan Peterson, the first thing you see is the Jordan Peterson Destroy stuff. And I went through all that. And well, then I found these lectures and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's articulating things that I felt for years, but couldn't spew out of my mouth for love nor money because I was too sick. I didn't know the words. I couldn't put it together. And then one day I come across this 30-minute cutout from his interview on Joe Rogan where he describes how his daughter Michaela figures out how to heal her arthritis. Man, there's a horror story. 2 limp joint replacements in a year's time. Oh, my God. and as a teenager.
I know.
And she healed herself, and her depression was horrible. She healed by eating beef, salt, and water. And then this man, who I respect, had no idea the man suffered from mental illness in any way, shape, or form, tells me that he suffered from severe depression and anxiety and is successfully treating it by eating meat and drinking water. My jaw's on the floor. If it's anybody but this man, Phil, I'm probably thinking, this guy's nuts. This is just Joe Rogan having fun day, and I go on about my merry way. But because it's Jordan freaking Peterson, I get my wife when she comes on, I say, you watch this with me and tell me what you think. Because I didn't trust what I was hearing. I thought, something's not right here. And she's like, oh, that's really real. He means it. And so then I began the carnivore diet search. And the very next thing I found, Phil, was Sean Baker's episode on Rogan. And there's another towering mountain of integrity. Air Force combat surgeon. Please, right there. If he just said, I found success eating 3 small sized pebbles every day has cleaned my arteries out and cured my depression, I would have been like, man, that sounds crazy, but Air Force combat surgeon. So I'm like, I watched that episode 50 times because at this point I'm like, this is still too good to be true.
Doesn't it wind you up? It really, one of the things that winds me up the most is when the vegans go about how he's a disgraced ex-doctor and stuff, and you're like, do you have any idea? I'm always like, send Gregor into a war zone, see how he does,
Oh, goodness gracious. And you hear him talk about the trauma that he had to deal with is a horror show. How do you stay rational under that kind of stress? I can't fathom it.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for flaws in logic. Okay, he's still a human freaking being. I know doctors are intelligent people, but they're still flawed humans. Okay, maybe there's a mistake here. I got to find the error because it's just too good to be true. And then I come across a talk by Amber O'Hearn for Keto Fest 2017, where she explains in a way that this dumbass guitar player can understand how we literally came out of the trees because we started eating meat, and how our brains got larger and our bones got bigger. And then, I didn't know what a cecum was. I didn't know. And like I said, in a way, and I was like, that was the last piece of the puzzle that gave me enough of the picture to where I was like, I got to do this.
First time I heard about it, I thought it was something to do with an English comedian from like the 70s called Harry Seacombe. And then it was only when I saw it written, I realized it was nothing to do with that. Sorry, carry on.
I never heard, you don't hear, well, your cecum's looking a little inflamed, Brett. You just don't hear that. Oh, he's got cecum cancer. You just don't hear that. Anything like, I didn't even know the word existed. So July 16th, 2018, I started living carnivorously. The first week I ate eggs with my meat. It was eggs and steak. And then the eggs suddenly, while they were still delicious, they weren't filling. They weren't satisfying anymore. And excuse me, made me cry. I have to wipe my nose periodically. And so it was just meat and water. And I haven't had anything but meat and water since. 10 days into the experience, Phil, I woke up. I didn't have any joint pain. Now, I never thought I was arthritic. I didn't complain. I had aches and pains. You break bones, you fall down, you jump off stage and climb up on a table at a gig, and some drunk knocks the table over, or the table gives way. You slip on beer and your feet are pointing to the ceiling during the middle of your big solo and comfortably numb, but damn it, you keep playing. and the next day you're walking around like a question mark because you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. I had those kinds of aches and pains. But I was never diagnosed as arthritic in any way. When you wake up without joint pain, as you well know, it is I felt like I was a 10-year-old kid again, that I could just like skip to Malou for real. I'm taking my morning walk, skipping like a child because it feels good. Who knew that was going to happen?
It's just that, Brett, it's just the placebo effect, you know. That's all.
Oh my gosh, I get hit with that. Well, you lost all that weight. No wonder that's why you feel better. I'm like,
Yeah,
no. That's what you get for assuming you know what happened.
the worst I ever felt, I was 123 pounds.
Oh, yeah. You
I
don't
got
have to be
that
heavy.
skinny on veganism. It's nothing to do with losing the weight.
No, it helped. It was an assistance, but if I'm still eating the same garbage, I'm just starving myself to lose the weight. I'm still a psych. I'm still nuts.
Yeah.
On the 23rd day, I knew that it was like I felt like I was on the verge of something just incredible. I don't know any other way to describe it. It was like I felt like it's really happening, but I couldn't say it in stages that this happened, that symptom. It was just this feeling. And then when I woke up in the morning of the 24th day and I'm taking my 2-mile walk at 6 in the morning, I'll never forget, I'm under a willow tree and it's this beautiful thing happens. And it's like I lose weight all over again. And I'm kind of filled with this light. I don't see any light, but I feel like I'm filled with it because that horrible monster's just gone. All of it. All the pain, all the anger, all the rage, all the crazy, all the things that made me say and do stupid and disgraceful things. It was all gone. And I'll never forget how beautiful that was. And everybody should deserve that moment. Everybody deserves to feel like that. And we can if we stop poisoning ourselves with this damn garbage we've been told to eat that's supposedly heart healthy. And it's just gotten better since. Every aspect of my existence has immensely improved.
This is what blows me away when I hear this stuff, because you can kind of get your head around joints and IBS and stuff like that. But to me, the interesting thing is these things like the depression lifting or even deepening of spiritual experience, you know, that people are getting on this carnivory. Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's the stage that it's a reconnection with our whole ancestral heritage, really, isn't it? It's a reconnection with the ancestral heritage, you know, on all levels. And and you know, that's what's happening, you know. So it just reconnects us with what we're supposed to feel like, and we are supposed to feel that connection, that lightness of being, that, you know, it's the whole heaviness with all the toxins that go into us and how it rips our body to bits, and suddenly there's this beautiful relief. I know exactly that feeling. Yeah.
It's the most profound experience I'll probably ever have in my life. I mean, I thought seeing my son born was profound. I thought getting married at the second time and experiencing that joy was profound. I thought becoming a Catholic was at that point, the most profound experience I ever had. But this was just, it's the most transcendent thing I've ever come in contact with. I mean, you know, whether it was God there or an angel, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Well, doesn't it? To me, it makes so much sense that something that transcendent, something that beautiful, if it feels like that in the body, you know, when the vegans say, oh, well, you're just going according to your base tastes and whatever, you know, making excuses for your diet and all this nonsense. Well, if something is that transcendent, to me, that must mean that it is also the most beautiful thing for the planet, because we're all tied in. So, you know, all this getting the ruminant animals back on the land and stuff like that. It's obviously a clue that it's going to heal pretty much everything, you know? Not immediately, and that's the problem, isn't it? Where people don't have the amount of pain to stay on it. And so they'll go and do it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe, oh, it didn't quite work, or some problem, and oh, that must be dangerous then, and they're back on the treadmill forever. And it's such a shame, and all these delusions that we've all got. So I love, hearing people and these beautiful healing stories, because you can see in the passion that you've got, you can't fake that. You're no shill for the fucking meat industry, and, and neither am I. Well, so am I, but I can't find them.
Phil's going to keep all the meat money to himself. That's what's going on.
Yeah. Maybe Sean's got it all. I don't know.
Yeah, Sean's got it. That's how he's affording ribeyes at 4 a.m. the way he eats.
Yeah, it must be.
I feel sorry for those people, because I can't imagine knowing what it was like where I was in my darkest moment. I can't even imagine what it's like to be your brain so nutrient starved that you start pushing an anti-human existence policy onto people as if it's a good idea. Because really, when you get down to it, that's ultimately, if veganism was just about, okay, we love the animals, we respect the animals, we're not going to eat them, that's what we choose to do, what you do is your business, nobody would give them a moment's notice. I do believe nobody would care. But no, they want to force it themselves onto us. They want to force their ideology, their religion. It's a combination of the two, which in my opinion makes it one of the most scariest things on the planet Earth right now. It's very malevolent, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I agree. The funny thing is, when they then try and say, "Oh, well, you're trying to push meat on everybody." No, we're not. None of us are. It's just a message to say that it's safe. One question I really wanted to ask you, because I don't know. I can see it from the Hindu side, and I can see how, the weird human controlling side of religion has come in, and spirituality and new age, all of these things, like in diet, there's little gold nuggets, and yet there's a load of crap. Same with religion, same with spirituality, and you've got to find that core of it, that's the beautiful stuff. Now, I see a load of people arguing, oh, in the Bible it says we can't eat meat. Oh, in the Bible it says we should eat meat. God prefers sort of sacrifices of fatty lamb over a load of crappy wheat or something. I mean, what's going on in the Bible there with that message? Why are people able to drag both of the arguments out of it,
You can cherry pick the Bible for whatever you want, if you want to cherry pick it. I am not a biblical theologian. I've read most of it. I've understood too little of it. But I do know that in the Old Testament is replete with examples about, Abraham wasn't bringing flowers and grains at the command of God before he almost sacrificed his son. No, he was about to sacrifice his son, and then when the angel stayed his hand, what did he do? He sacrificed animals. And that's what the Israelites did, and they ate. And with big celebration, you see time and time again about the fatted calf. Oh, our son has returned. Let's harvest the fatted calf and have a feast.
I always joke about that, saying nobody ever talked about the fatted turnip, It never happened, did it?
Or the fatted carrot, And I think I've heard the notion of your daily bread being abused as well too. That's just daily sustenance. Is how I translate that. But malevolent people can take goodness and twist it to suit their needs. It doesn't matter if it's from an ancient Hindu text, if it's from the Buddha, if it's from the older New Testament. Humans will twist things to suit their agenda, and they do frequently. That's why when I'm at Mass, my focus is on the fact that I believe that the Lord came to this earth. He lived, he walked the planet. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand how any of it happens, but I believe it occurred. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be talking about it, is my belief. He lives, he dies, he comes back. I can't explain it except it happens through the power. Now, it's one of the things I love about Catholicism. It doesn't try to explain everything in black and white. Some things are a mystery. We're incapable of processing, comprehending. We think we're so smart, but we're not. We think we're these big, powerful creatures, but compared to the universe, man, we're not even a gnat on the tick of a head of a pin, of the tiniest pin ever formed. We're not.
I agree. And that give, having that perspective gives a great perspective on illness as well, because you realize that it really doesn't matter in the long run. You know, in the big scheme of things, you're just almost, I feel that with, like, the brain is not the seat of consciousness, I don't think. To me, it's almost like a receiver, you know? So there's this whole of divinity or God or creation or consciousness, if you like. And it kind of pours through us. And it depends how open we can keep ourselves with whatever free will we have, which is kind of questionable in many disciplines, whether we have it at all. But, you know, it kind of comes through us. But if we can realize that, my friend Rick Archer, who does the Buddha at the Gas Pump series of interviews, he's great. He says, you know, it's like being sense organs of the infinite. So we're not individual entities. We're all kind of one, and we're all kind of sense organs of the infinite, just allowing the infinite to look at itself. You know, and if you can have that kind of perspective, that sort of program running in the background, and to me, I don't give a damn what faith, what religion people have that from, just the sense that there is something greater that comes through us. And that gives such a tremendous perspective to the illness, because I think at times I might have gone and got that motorbike, you know, or found another way around it, if there hadn't have been that idea of, well, this is just the part of the program. You know, it's running this program. I resisted the program for so long and didn't listen to the whispers that now I've got this horrendous disease. So now I've got to deal with that. You know, it's my own fault for not listening. And then you've got to find your way back to that nice, comfortable groove of being a human. And I believe that includes eating good fatty animals, you know?
I agree completely. It's been really remarkable because a lot of humans want to get caught up in, you know, to me, the worst form of Catholicism that's ever practiced is the legalistic. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't genuflect properly, you didn't do this, you didn't follow that. And people lose track of what the whole goal is that we're all flawed. We're all flawed. We've all got things that we can improve about ourselves to not just improve the quality of our lives, but the quality of the lives of our families and our communities. And getting bogged down into this one-upmanship, and, you know, I think one of the most telling scriptures in the Bible is referenced as, you know, don't be pointing out the little piece of wood in your friend's eye when you got this big beam in yours. You know, splinter in your friend's eye and there's a beam in yours. And you know, but humans like to judge things, and then people like to misrepresent things. Like, you're not supposed to judge. Thou shalt not judge. Well, yeah. Do you understand what the hell that means? We judge everything. What we're not supposed to do is to judge ourselves better than anybody else.
Nice.
But we judge everything. We judge whether a song's good or not. We judge whether the band that played the song is good or not. We judge whether or not we're going to pay money so that those guys can eat. We make judgments all the time. So we twist things as humans. We take really good stuff, and if we're not careful, we'll tarnish it, we'll muddy it into something to where it's completely unrecognizable from its original form. And I think that's why religion in general gets scoffed at and then why Christianity can become a caricature of what it really is, because humans blow themselves up. It becomes about ego and self as opposed to the spiritual well-being of an individual or a parish or a congregation, however you want, a commune, whatever it is. And that's why this diet stuff is, to me, it's like, it's good news. It's not the good news of Christ, but it's good news. And we should be telling people this good news. And that's why this is ultimately, you know, like you, I would rather help people this way than do anything else in life right now.
Yeah. Well, people forget that we all thought it was insane as well when we first came across it. You know, eat just meat. It's absolutely insane. So they look on the surface and they go, right, that's insane, and just judge it in a second, and they don't realize what a beautiful thing they'd see. See, the lucky thing with me is I do judge things, but I notice myself judging them, but I still go look into them. You know, there's so many things in my life that I've been wrong about, so many things that I think at one stage were completely insane. But when I look into them, there's a hell of a lot of interesting stuff. I just don't judge anymore, you know. I mean, I did it the other week, a couple of weeks ago. There was a Buddha at the gas pump interview, and it was an animal communicator. And I thought, oh, well, you know, I'll listen to them all. I'll have a listen to this one. This is going to be a bit strange, you know, this is going to be a bit annoying. And one of the best interviews I've ever heard, and I posted it, you know, in that Beyond the Beyond group, because it just blew me away. Some of the stuff she was on about, you know, and it's just, you can't judge. It's what I don't understand is people's lack of inquisitiveness.
Oh Lord,
you
that
know?
just boggles my mind, Phil. Why aren't, I mean, you see it on Twitter, you see it on social media, these registered dietitians or these doctors will come up out of nowhere and what you're doing is just a fad diet. Your arteries are so clogged. I said, well, if my arteries are so clogged, why is my blood pressure 90/60? Or 120/79, whatever it is that day? Why is my heart rate never getting higher than 60 beats a minute, even when I'm exercising? Why do I feel like a 20-year-old? I don't look like a 20-year-old, but I feel like one. I got the libido of one. I'm 58. I got a good tangent. You're going to give me this moment because you're Phil Escott and you're cool as hell. Let's talk about libido for a moment, Phil.
Yeah.
My wife is 1 month behind me in carnivory. She's 60 years old. She had arthritis in her shoulders. She's still got a little bit in her hands. It's completely gone in her shoulders, and her hands are almost completely healed up as well. Improved, changed her body shape. She didn't need to lose a lot of weight, but she still lost like 28 pounds. And she's got the clarity of thought. She's got all the benefits, man. It's just all coming to her a month behind me. She never suffered from mental illness. She suffered from bread illness, is how I describe it. Her libido is right up there with mine. And it's the most beautiful, unexpected gift we've ever been given. And, you know, she's 60 years old. I'm 58. And we feel like the whole intimacy thing feels like you're 20.
I said that the other day on the group. It's just like being 18 again, but with wrinkles.
with wrinkles, and you're more intelligent and you're more considerate of your partner because maturity has taught you that, hopefully. But it is just incredible. So if you're guys, I'm serious. I can say this with Phil. When I'm doing it by myself online, I just sound like a dirty old man. But another guy's here, so it's acceptable. I declare it so. If there's not been enough iron in your wood, guys, eat meat and drink water.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that in their life? I mean, seriously, think about it. What man walking planet Earth today doesn't want that to happen?
But the vegans are saying that it causes impotence and stuff. I mean, how crazy is that? You can just look in the group. You can see everyone's getting this, you know? Everyone's walking around with 3 legs, you know? It's just how it happens now.
because as you probably, I don't know if it happened with you when you were having weight issues and whatnot. When I was overweight, the mental desire was there, but the physical ability to make it happen just wasn't around very often.
It didn't disappear with me, but it slowed right down, and it was like, hey, come on, you know?
And,
Yeah.
and it was that just added to the frustration that was constantly being ground up and sprayed around. So, I mean, when your wife is on the same level as you with all of that, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's magic. You want to talk about that's like the most magical aspect of this, if you were going to use that term. The
Yeah,
rest
that's
of it's just
beautiful.
biology.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember getting to a stage where I was buying loads of sort of Chinese medicine pills to try and sort of speed it up. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's this pill that does this, or this Hey Shu Wu or something or other, you know? And it costs a bloody fortune. And I could have bought so many ribeyes with that sort of crap that I bought while I was downing my smoothies and stocking up on kidney stones, you know.
Well, my thought was I would wait. If I had to, I would wait until all those ED pills. I can't even Viagra and whatnot. Were available over the counter, and maybe I'd have one more good throw before I gave myself a heart attack or something. It was terrible.
Yeah, I never got round to them either. But it was sort of half in the back of my mind, but it hadn't failed. It was just slowing down. But now it's just, yeah, it's a totally different thing, and you just see it with everybody, you know. And it's lucky because my missus, she's black and she's 10 years younger than me. So obviously, you know, she's going to age at a much slower rate than me, and so I've got to make sure I can keep up.
Well, my wife posted the biggest tweet I ever had was a picture of my wife from a meetup where 9 carnivores here in Jacksonville area got together, and we feasted together. It was an amazing, amazing time. But I took a picture of my wife on the way in, and I posted that picture. You would see that picture, and there's no way you would think that woman is 60 years old. And it got the biggest response, most interactions of any tweet I've ever made. I mean, it was insane, like 80,000 impressions or something like that.
Cool.
Of this beautiful picture of she's just wearing a t-shirt and jeans. It wasn't nothing, she wasn't all decked out or anything or in a bikini. She just looks great. She doesn't look like a 60-year-old woman. And she doesn't feel like one, thank goodness. Because I don't feel like a 58-year-old man. And see, when I was so sick, the future, please. We were just trying to get through the day, the hour. Maybe we might look to get into the week, We would look that far. But now we're planning, we're making plans for our future. I'm back to work. I start this new job Monday. We're already, this is what we're going to do and pay off so that we can hopefully move north when we retire and experience 4 seasons again and enjoy our later years in health and happiness, because we're damn sure going to be eating meat and drinking water.
Fantastic. When you came from, did you do a period of kind of low carb, high fat, and then go into carnivory? Or was it straight into carnivory from just the odd period of Atkins? I'm wondering about the difference between the low carb, high fat and the...
I was really low carb. See, my low carb journey is kind of weird because there was some peaks and valleys. Like in 2016 was the year of the great white chocolate binge. White chocolate suddenly became available at a very affordable rate, Phil, and I decided to try to eat all of it while still walking X number of miles and still not eating other things that were good for me. And then I was feeling kind of weird, not quite right. Again, this is 2016. I'm still titrating off meds. There's still depression symptoms. Cannabis is keeping me along. And I go to the doctor and he has me take a blood test, and I've got hypothyroidism and my blood sugar, I'm almost pre-diabetic. My blood pressure was 135/85. And I told this to Sean Baker the other day. And I said, it was an anxiety blood pressure, commonly known as the white coat blood pressure. It's common. You take it again 20 minutes later to make sure. Well, they wouldn't do that. And this doctor put me on meds for the hypothyroidism. He wanted to put me on a statin right then. And the little voice in my head said, no, 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 no. I just knew that statins, that just sounded bad to me. I didn't really understand why at the time. And and he wanted me to go on a low fat diet. And I just looked at it and said, why don't you let me handle this for 6 months and attack it with diet and exercise? Phil, the guy looked me straight in the eye and he said, 90% of the people with your numbers cannot make a change with diet and exercise. And right then, that was one of the best things he could have ever said to me, because I thought, you little gnarly SOB, you just watch.
Nice. Well, the thing is, if they go out and do low fat and then go jogging, then it's pretty unlikely they will make the change, because they're given the wrong advice. That's the problem, isn't it?
And so I eliminated sugar entirely. No more white chocolate. I thought I was eliminated entirely. Correction, because I still ate fruit, because I didn't know the amount of sugar that was in fruit. That was healthy to me still. I was still ignorant and uneducated on this. And then in 2017, in addition to getting off the trazodone meds, I didn't need those damn thyroid meds anymore either. But I'll never forget, I thought, how many times has that guy and other doctors looked at their patients and said, you can't do it? What a thing to tell somebody. And I've been asked, have you gone back to that guy? And I thought, I've thought about it, but I'd have to burn $100 that I can't really afford to burn to go do it, just to rub it in his face.
I know. They got so angry with me. And when I Skype people now, when I do a consult or whatever, and they come on and they're in a mess and they're really upset, and you can say to them, listen, you've messed up, but there's definitely a way out. Let's look at all the aspects of your life, and this is going to be such a cool journey. You're going to learn so much about yourself. And it's going to be brilliant. You're going to come out stronger than you went in, healthier than you went in. Imagine if you said that in the doctor's office. They'd walk out on air. As it is, they just walk out like that. Oh my God, I've got to be on meds forever. It's even the psychology of it is crazy.
It's the most counterintuitive way of dealing with human beings you could ever come up with. And that's the standard of care. I mean, I'm a guitar player. I don't know jack about medicine. I mean, little bits here and there. I don't know anything. I'm not certified to prescribe aspirin to a dog. But that's just ludicrous. It's insane. The whole notion. They'll give you medicine. They would write me, Phil, they would write me these scripts for these antidepressants, these mood stabilizers. Take these, this many times a day for 6 months and come back and tell us how you're doing. What the hell? 6 months? Are you serious? And people are like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll be a good sheep. I understand. You're the doctor. Must obey authority.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we've been conditioned to accept these, when you stop and examine them under light, completely unacceptable constructs that we've allowed to go on. And now when these constructs, when the TV, the smiling, laughing lady with her salad that she's, oh, this is so good. I had a crepe this morning. It was wonderful. And then I won't tell you about how my hemorrhoids swelled up and bled. And I won't tell you about the stomach ache and about all of this other stuff that's happening. This is one I like to throw out just randomly, periodically. I used to suffer from hemorrhoids, Phil Escott. They went away. They went away. Did yours go away?
Yeah.
Is that not wild?
I know, it's brilliant, isn't it? On exactly the thing that's supposed to cause them. Because the meat's all rotting in your colon and causing all these problems. And yet, nope.
It's the most incredible thing. And the only reason I realized they were gone was I saw a commercial for Preparation H, and it just pinged the thought in my head. I'm like, I start, kind of moving around. It's gone. And the next time I took a shower, I verified it was gone. Because I didn't want to be saying I'd lost it if I had. It's gone. Who knew? My mom suffered from those for years. I'll share this with you. The house I grew up in, Mom, Dad, my sister, and I, we had fresh vegetables year round. They had a huge vegetable garden. We ate tons of meat. It was the perfect standard American diet. My dad suffers from type 2 diabetes. He's been getting himself shots for years. My mom's had numerous health problems. She suffered from hemorrhoids for years. I know she'll be happy for me announcing that to the world. But she's had a cancer scare. My sister, my younger sister, has suffered from ulcerative colitis. And I know to a certainty, looking back, that I started experiencing depression symptoms when I was about age 15. So I was fighting that for over 40 years, following the standard American diet to the letter. I was an athlete. I exercised. My God, people that knew me growing up, I had delusions of grandeur that I was going to become a professional athlete. So I committed myself to it. I worked as hard as I possibly could. That's probably why I didn't get sicker faster, was because I was burning off toxins at a really higher rate than most people would.
Maybe. I mean, I remember my times of really exercising. I used to own a gym and I used to write for mountain bike mags. And I got real big and muscly, but I never really got lean. However much cardio I did, however much I watched the calories, and all this crap, it never happened. And yet now I'm really, really lean. And I haven't really trained for 4 years. I got really, really lean recently from just cutting out butter. And the rest of it dropped off. There was only maybe about sort of 10 pounds or something, but it dropped off. And now I find myself, I mean, I was like 123 pounds as a vegan. I was really, really skinny, and I managed to put some muscle back on. So now I'm like about 150. But I'm looking at it lean and I'm thinking, I'm actually a bit skinny here, Let's get into some training again. But now there's never any worries about putting a load of fat on. It's just not going to happen. It's either muscle or nothing, because that's the only option you've got, isn't it, on this carnivory thing? It's effortless to keep the fat off. It's beautiful.
And I'm still burning. I've got a little belly fat still that hasn't burned off completely, but I posted a new recent picture of me to give you a new before and after thing that my wife put together. And it was the coolest thing. Somebody said, "I see the onset of abs." So I was like, well, yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe a little. I was hoping that I would have my 40-year class reunion is this June. I was hoping I'd have some abs there, but I don't know that I'll make it. I have to be careful because I had a hernia repaired a few years ago. So, and from
so
where
did I. So did I. We've got loads of things similar, man.
Scary. We're not related, but we could be. Where my musculature just atrophied. I mean, the 5 years prior to, from 2010 to 2015, I spent 14, 16 hours a day sitting in this stupid chair working on music, feeling sorry for myself, being sick. I didn't do anything. I didn't have any energy. You know what? If you've suffered from depression, that's one thing. People say, oh, if you just got up and showed some initiative and moved around a little, I would have given anything to have been able to do that. I would have given anything. But as you well know, trying to describe what depression's like to somebody who's never experienced is like trying to explain what a broken bone is like to somebody who's never experienced it. You can't. It's impossible. And it's different for everybody. It's very specific to the individual. Although I truly believe, I hope one day I get to sit and ask Jordan Peterson about my theory about mental illness altering everything, because I think that'd be a great discussion. And it might be the one subject that man would, that's a good question. Let's think about it. Because I really think that plays a role. Because if we can't communicate and we can't perceive our surroundings accurately, we're screwed.
Absolutely.
I mean, seriously, it doesn't matter. Depression, schizophrenia, personality disorder types, whatever your illness, if you're not processing your environment accurately, you're not going to get better. I don't care what it is.
I know it's a difficulty, isn't it? You just and when you're in the middle of it, you just don't realize that you're not seeing things clearly, because things just look like And so this, it's crazy. I've got this thing coming up next month where I've got to debate this young vegan in Liverpool live, And it's like, oh man, you know, it's gonna be a struggle, I think, that one, because I bet, yeah, but the thing is that half the audience will be vegans at least, and they won't know because you don't know. It's you know, you bring out the emotional thing, and then it seems like it's you know, it's all making sense because the brain goes. My brain was going. It wasn't going in the same way. I wasn't attacking anybody or anything, but I didn't know why I'd walked into a room, you know, and I was sort of overflowing baths and burning pans and things like that, you know, because my brain wasn't working at all. You know, 1 week on fish only, and it all came back, you know, that fast. But you know, you do get to the stage where you know that it's malfunctioning. But I think in a certain, you know, with the vegans, very often they have no idea that it's malfunctioning, and you can see it. They're standing in front of you and saying that stuff. There's just nothing you can say. And so it's a matter of just nailing this down and getting more of the people like you and me talking about it, people like Sean talking about it, you know, surprising people like Jordan Peterson talking about it, who have nothing to do with diet usually, to just bring this out. And then hopefully, you know, but I mean, hey, we're getting a lot of people on those groups. There's a whole load of stuff and it's spreading, isn't it? So hopefully we can get this out there.
Well, if you stop and look at over the history of humankind, stories are very powerful.
Yeah.
Stories have changed. They've molded generations and nations and whatnot. Our individual health stories are very powerful. And I didn't really appreciate that until after I did the very first time I talked about this publicly outside of my Facebook page. I was blessed to be a guest on Scott Malinsky's Carnivore cast. And the messages I got, you know, people in tears, thank you so much for sharing this. It's given me hope. I'm going to start carnivory. And you know, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, that was a beautiful interview. I shared that all over the place. That was really cool.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I get really uncomfortable when people say you're inspiring. The story's inspiring. I'm still a flawed man.
Yeah.
Trying to aim upward as best I can. So that's why I get so afraid of ego, because the minute I let my ego start getting involved with this, it's going to go straight to crap. And people will turn off like that because it won't look the same. It won't be the same. It'll be something wrong. It'll be something bad. And I don't want that to happen under any circumstance.
No, you've got a big heart. You've got humility. It's not gonna happen, and it's not gonna happen with me because I just don't take things seriously enough. You know, in my world, things are generally funny or not funny. That's pretty much my two classifications. You know, and that's the, you know, on the group, it's funny. They keep going like the Supreme Overlord Phil Escott and all this. It's just bollocks, isn't it? You know, I just laugh at it. And they're joking as well. I know that. So that's cool.
It's been an interesting watching people genuinely lose their minds over nothing in there. And the announced departures.
Oh, yes.
I have been so mortally offended. I'm going to take 45 minutes out of your day and expect you to read this tripe I just wrote that I've proofread multiple times to make sure it is perfect. And you're going to either weep with sorrow at my departure or beg me to stay, one or the other. I'm certain of it.
Oh, what you don't see is behind the scenes, I get a load of other snowflakes complaining about the treatment that person had on their exit post. And I'm like, no, they've already gone. And so people are taking a piss out of people who exit like that. They're not being nasty to the person. It's just like, it's hilarious that people would even do that. They're not being personal or horrendous. It was their own fault for posting that. So I get all these private messages saying, I can't believe these appalling people in your group. And I go, what people? There's 10,000 people in there. There's going to be all sorts of different people. I can't control these people. You know, I'm far too immature to be a proper moderator and start throwing people out all the time. You know, if somebody's really, really nasty and personal to one particular person, I'll have a go and I'll throw them out. But, you know, I'll give them a warning first. But, you know, throwing somebody out for using some swear word or just sort of, you know, taking a piss out of somebody who's had a bit of a dramatic rage quit, come on. And I mean, people report posts all the time, and I look at them, and they're usually the funniest and the most interesting. They must get frustrated because they report them to me, and I go, "Oh, there's an interesting one," and I just hit keep. And
they see that Bill Escott gave it a heart, or he loved it, or he laughed at it. I moderated.
Well, I pick the other moderators for that too, so that they've all got a sense of humor and they do the same thing.
I helped moderate and had been a Facebook Patients Cannabis group for a time, and it was rewarding for a while until it wasn't. And then it became kind of something I had to get away from, because it was taking too much time and energy and focus away from what really mattered.
Yeah. Well, I've said this is irreverent from the start. You know, I only started it up for 10 friends. You know, and it's grown to like 10,000 or something. And I thought it was a complete surprise to me. So you know, I'm keeping it how it originally was. Lots of mucking about and whatever. Anyway, Brett, I've got one more question for you. Tell me about the cannabis, and you said you still use it now. That's something you didn't get onto now. And are you off all the meds, and what's happening now? Where are you now?
I've been pharmaceutical free since 2017. I
Beautiful.
take no pills of any kind. Don't want any. I feel amazing. I still use cannabis because without cannabis, my mood is outstanding. I'm the happiest, hypercritical, obnoxious jerk you could ever be around. Literally, I believe it's probably the person that I was when I was sick, when I was able to interact with people on a barely acceptable level. And it goes to show I was probably a lot better guitar player than I ever gave myself credit for, because to be that obnoxious and critical, hypercritical, I mean, every little thing I'll observe it and I can't not mention it. I just can't. I don't understand. I mean, I figure it's learned behavior from over 40 plus years of being sick. And at my age, that's going to be difficult. But the cannabis eliminates it. And you get what you've been talking to for over an hour, 24 hours a day. I'm genuinely this happy all the time. When life's hurdles come, you know, the car breaks down, there's not enough money to fix it. Those things would have just been these devastating, horrible, incapacitating events. And now it's like, okay, we'll take care of it this way, that way, and it's done.
I find a similar thing with it. It's I hadn't done it for years. You know, in my youth, I spent the whole time stoned or on mushrooms or something. And then when my mum, you know, a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, whatever, and she got diagnosed with this breast cancer. And so we got the cannabis in, you know, I went to the little guy down the road, and it's ridiculous now. It's like, you know, it's illegal here. So when it's made into the oil, it's like 7 years offense and all this. I mean, ridiculous, isn't it? So, ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, how many deaths from cannabis? 0. How many deaths from alcohol? You know, it's crazy, isn't it? I know. So anyway, we got it for my mum, and it was kind of working, and it was shrinking down with her on a pretty much, you know, 95% carnivore diet with a few berries and some Greek yogurt, you know. And this was shrinking down, but she got sick of being stoned, so there was quite a bit left, and so I took that over, and we went down the iodine route as well, which worked and went up. I mean, you say, talking about your mum's hemorrhoids, like, imagine me, I've got a video of my mum's tits up on YouTube, you know, so, you know, it was with her permission, but, you know, 93-year-old tits, but you have to see that tumor disappearing. I had to get it up there somehow. But, you know, and she was getting a bit stoned, and she was, you know, I'd go around and find her sweeping the lawn or something, and then she didn't have any idea why. So I thought, well, I better get her off that. And so I started taking it, you know, for about a year, up until probably about a year ago. And it was really interesting. I felt that it was the oil taken orally. I didn't put it in cookies or anything, just a little squirt of it or whatever on a bit of bacon or something. And it was kind of fixing things at a very subtle level that I feel even went back to the damage. I wouldn't say it's exactly damage, but the issues that I had from too much tripping, too many hallucinogens, you know. and resisting that path, if you like. It sort of took the resistance away and felt, and it chilled. And then one day my body said I didn't want any more. I have the odd spliff now, I have to admit. I'll smoke the odd spliff, but you know, I don't take it day to day orally. But that was a really interesting year. And it just one day my body said, right, that's enough. You've kind of fixed what you've got to fix. But it's very interesting stuff, and it's so healing. And when you're going through that and you think, I could actually get prosecuted for owning this stuff, you're thinking, how mad is this world?
Oh, it's insane. I'm already mentally preparing myself because where my high school reunion is, they have a medical program, but the laws and such are, I would be putting myself at risk taking it with me.
Wow.
And so I've made steps this time to make sure that when I get there, I'm not going to go without my medicine. But the fact that I have to do that is kind of mind-boggling. I mean, this is one thing about cannabis that's related to carnivory is everything that I was taught about cannabis has proven to be false. Completely 100% false in my experience. The same thing with food. Everything we were told to eat, that this is the healthy way to go, was false. Completely. Willingly, deliberately false. Same thing with cannabis. What else have we been lied to about?
Yeah, well,
what else? I mean, seriously, what else?
There's a whole host of things. Should we carry on for another 24 hours, man?
I mean, seriously, so, you know, and I used to believe things, you know, I believed when we were told this is what you should eat. I believed that. I believed when people told me that I knew, loved, and cared about me, that this cannabis is bad for you. Okay. Even when I was young and I had the bad experience, I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of bad. I don't think I ought to do that anymore. Of course, I didn't know anything about if I just used a whole lot less, I wouldn't have had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And, but I never had the mystical mind expanding experience or any of that silliness. I've not had, you know, I've never felt like I was tripping or, you know, I'm cognizant of everything around me. I'm a whole lot nicer, happier I don't want to say happier. I'm a whole lot more pleasant to be around.
Oh.
And I'd much rather be that person than the obnoxious, hypercritical jerk.
Well, so am I, certainly. I mean, it just seems to, even the carnivory just seems to balance the emotions, doesn't it? It's beautiful. I mean, your story is inspiring, man. You are just, I know you don't like that word, but it really is. You know, you can see it, and you've healed on so many levels, and it's, you know, we're coming out, well, we're over an hour and a half now, and it's just flown by, and we could go on. Yeah.
Battery's going to go away here for me in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, cool.
I have enjoyed this so very much, Phil. I hope that in the future, when time and life permits, we can sit and shoot the breeze, and we don't have to record it or air it or anything. I think you're an incredibly intelligent individual, and you're doing a lot of good work, and you deal with a lot of adversity with grace that I admire, and your wit is spectacular. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend.
Son of a lighthouse keeper, through corns and a wishing well, prayed for a love to call his own, a love to break the spell.